Hi there, Dick Street families of kindergarten, first, second, or third grade. Just appreciate you watching this video. This video is intended to share with you what the Read by Grade 3 bill is. That is a Michigan law that was passed a number of years ago. And for me to share with you what that law is, what it entails, and how it affects you as a parent, and how it might also possibly affect your student. So we're going to kind of go through the slides here. So the objectives of the video, by the time we're done with the video, you, after watching this, will learn about the Read by Grade 3 law, understand your role as a parent and guardian with regard to the Read by Grade 3 law, and gain resources to support your child at home. So just a quick overview of the Read by Grade 3 law. There's what they consider 5 components to the law. The one in the middle that kind of covers it all is core reading instruction. So all students here at Otsego Public Schools and really any Michigan public school gets core reading instruction. There's standards and things that we follow to make sure that students are prepared to enter the next grade level. And so at the core of all this is that. So if we start off here to the right here, well, actually, we'll start. It kind of all works together here. Assessment's one piece of the Read by Grade 3 law. So we do assessments all year long to see where your child's at in regards to reading and the reading level. But once they're in third grade, they'll be taking the M-STEP. And what the M-STEP is, for those of you who are about my age, which many of you are, might have remembered taking the MEEP test when you were in school, if you went to a public Michigan public school when you were a kid. And so the MEEP test is now called the M-STEP. And the M-STEP test when you were in third grade is a critical test. Basically, if you do not meet a certain score on that test, the Read by Grade 3 law states that your child must be retained. That means your child will not be promoted on to fourth grade. I'm going to get into more specifics of that later on in this presentation, but that's an important piece to this entire law. So they need to meet a certain grade, we'll say, or get a certain score on that third grade M-STEP test when it comes to the ELA portion, which would be the reading and writing portion, for them to be able to be promoted to fourth grade. Some of your students might be what's called an IRIP. Your teachers would share that with you if they are. Students who are 1 year or more behind get put on an IRIP. Really, it's just a piece of paper that states that they are 1 year behind. And here's the game plan. This is how we have a plan to bring your student back up to where they need to be. And this is the plan of how we're going to do it. And that's, in short, what that plan is. Your teacher should share that with you during first round of conferences if your student is on one of those. Professional learning and coaching is a big part of the Read by Grade 3 bill. There's been additional dollars and money and focus within the state since this bill came out a number of years ago to help provide professional learning and coaching for our teachers. And then, of course, there's that retention promotion, and there is some good cause exemptions that we're going to get into here later on in the presentation as well, which then again, like I said, kind of weaves right back into the assessment piece. So those are the different parts of the law. All right, moving forward. So again, we went through kind of quickly what an IRIP was. Again, it's a plan that's created within 30 days of identifying a student being a year or more behind. It outlines reading interventions that we are using to support that student and is a collaboration between the parent, the guardian, the teacher, principal, myself. I take a look at those and any other school personnel. For example, we have Title I aides here in the building. They're also privy and have access to those plans as they're a key component, especially the intervention piece within that plan. Moving on to the retention and promotion process within the district. So first, we're going to touch on the promotion piece. So what is promotion? Promotion onto grade 4 means that the district must ensure one of the following. Okay, so it could be that a student has a reading score that is less than one grade level behind on the third grade MSTEP ELA test. And the number of the score they use is 1252. So as long as your student passes the ELA portion, the reading and writing portion of the MSTEP in third grade with a score of 1252 or better, we will promote them on to fourth grade. Okay, so that's the first way. That's the way most students get promoted into fourth grade. Another option is that your third grade student is showing us through alternative standardized reading tests that they are one that's approved by the superintendent of public instruction with the state would be the STAR test. So let's say that on the MSTEP test, they don't show that they're proficient, but on the STAR test, they do, which is another kind of similar on the computer test. Then they would we would be able to use that score to promote them onto fourth grade. The third option is for a third grader to have a portfolio that demonstrates that they are ready. This would just be their overall grades, okay, and things like that, which would also include, though, the F&P testing that we do in that STAR test. So really that third one for us, unfortunately, doesn't really come into effect because, again, the STAR test would come in play because that is a piece of our portfolio here. Okay, so that's how they can be promoted. Okay, and like I said, most students are promoted just simply through the MSTEP of reaching that 1252 or higher. But again, occasionally we don't. Back up to that is we can land on the STAR test. They don't pass that either. That means we need to look at retention. So what does that mean? What is retention? Retention, this started back in the year of 2019-2020. Students who are enrolled in third grade who are determined to be 1 or more years behind based on that MSTEP test, again, getting less than 1252 as a score, may be eligible to be retained. And I'll explain what that means here in a minute because there is some other exemptions that could exempt a student from being retained. So let's get into those good cause exemptions. What could that be? Okay, so what are some of those other ways of your student not being retained? Okay, so a student may, again, the key word here is may qualify for a good cause exemption if they have an IEP or a 504. So if your student has an IEP or a 504, that could count as an exemption, and we would be able to promote them onto fourth grade. If they're an English language learner with less than 3 years of instruction in an English language learner program. So let's say we had someone who came to our district as a first grader, and well, let's not even say first grade, I guess a second grader, and they came from Mexico, and their home language is Spanish. We would be able to then move, since they're an English language learner and they've been in the district for less than 3 years, then we would also be able to move them forward if they didn't score high enough on the MSTEP. They've been previously retained. So if your student was in Young Fives, the state of Michigan actually considers Young Fives as planned retention. So it actually is considered retention according to the state. Or if they have been retained for any other reason, if they were ever retained in first grade, kindergarten, or second grade, if they've been previously retained, then we would be able to also promote them onto fourth grade. Or they've been enrolled another way. So the next way here would be that they were enrolled in our school for less than 2 years and they did not have an IRIP at their previous school. So let's say you came to us as a second grader. The student came to us as a second grader. We have zero proof that they were ever on an IRIP before. They came to us. They were exhibited being a year or more behind. So we put them on IRIP. Since they were with us for less than 2 years, then we would also be able to promote. And the last way, if none of that criteria, which I've experienced times where that's happened, doesn't happen, then you as a parent do have the ability to request within an appropriate time frame for your student to be promoted, regardless of all of the above. There is a process here in Otsego around that, including which includes, again, timely. There's a window in the late spring where you would be able to request that if your student fell into this category, as well as meeting with the superintendent, as well as me, the director of instruction here in Otsego, help you make and help us as a team make that best decision for your child. Besides those good cause exemptions, there's a few other ways for your child to be promoted. Let's say that they show proficiency and they do a really nice job and they land in that proficient category on math on the state assessment. We'd also be able to promote them if they were proficient in math. And they also showed proficiency in science and social studies here at school. So if they're proficient in math and proficient in science and social studies here at school, then we would also be able to promote them on as well. Okay, so that'd be kind of like the last exemption that we could use besides the parent request. So kind of the retention good cause exemption, this kind of just shows you here. So grade 3 student takes, your third grade student takes the ELA MSTEP spring assessment this spring. The parent guardian of the grade 3 student receives the scores. If the score is lower than 1252, then we would let you know. Parents and guardians not wanting their child then retained would request a good cause exemption from the school district within 30 days of the notification. So you'll get it once your student takes the test as a third grade student. You'll get a letter in the mail from the state with your child's score. From the moment that you receive that in the mail, you have 30 days then to request from us that good cause exemption. And then you would meet with us and we would decide, and a decision would be made by the district based on your request before 30 days prior to the start of the next school year. So that's kind of how that process works. So how can you help? Again, listed here, I'm not going to necessarily read them because you can see them, is a bunch of ways. Obviously, the earlier the better. So if you have really young children at home who are not school aged yet, starting that young with them to build literacy skills is really important. Speaking, talking, using vocabulary with them, just having conversation with them, getting them off the tablets and all the technology all of the time, and actually having that communication with them actually helps them and helps their brain become ready to be a good reader. By the time they reach age 3 and 4, you should be encouraging them to try to read and write. Again, reading could just look like flipping through a book, right? Not necessarily reading the words, but looking at the pictures, trying to get them to write, introducing them to letters, introducing them to sounds as much as you can. All those things go a very long way with setting up your child for success. By the time they reach 5, you really should be reading with them. What it really comes down to is read some more. So again, you can see on the slide some of these things that you can do at home to make sure you're helping your child and when they're really kindergarten, first grade age, to help them make sure they're set up for success. So by the time they finish third grade, they are pretty solid readers. All right. And I like to just throw this slide in here. The one thing that we are all consistent on, no matter what grade level we was at, is that every single grade level, every single student, every single night should be reading for at least 20 minutes. I know as a dad of third grade students myself, we have we put them to bed, we let them read with the light on for 30 minutes before we go downstairs and turn that light off. So that's just a suggestion of a way to fit it in. I know all our lives are really busy, but that's a way that we fit it in, at least with our family. This is a very interesting, so this is all based on data and research. If you're geeky like me and you actually want the research to back these numbers up, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to get it to you. But basically this shows you if a child reads 20 minutes every night, that means every single year that they're reading 3,600 minutes per year. They are hearing or reading 1.8 million words, 1.8 million words every year. And the hours that they would have read by the time they reach 6th grade would be 851 hours. Typically, students who do this and are consistent with it, okay, typically test within the 90 percentile, okay, 90 percentile. So that means when you were to take their entire class, 100 kids in a class, they're in the top 10, okay, of proficient readers. Again, typically, obviously there's always an outlier, but typically that's what we see. If a student were to read 5 minutes, you can see a drastic difference, right? If they're only reading 5 minutes a day every night at home, huge difference. And then virtually none, right? 1 minute could be that they read something that was on TV, right? 1 minute of reading. you can see how drastic this is. Again, it is no wonder that research shows that the students who read 1.8 million words by the time they reach sixth grade test in the 90th percentile, and students who at home only read 1 minute, which is virtually not reading at all, have only read 8,000 words at that point and are testing the 10th percentile. So this is why reading at home is so critical. It's so important for you to do. That is it. That's the presentation. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I greatly appreciate that. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My email is right here. It is mvanderklok@otsegops.org. Again, read some more. That's the best.